Hello friends, in this video we are going to discuss about physical factor temperature that influence plants and animals' life. Temperature. Life on this earth exists within a narrow range of 300 degrees Celsius from minus 200 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. In fact, the activities of most species are confined to an even narrower band of temperature. Some organisms can survive in very low temperatures during the resting phase, while some microorganisms like bacteria can tolerate and even reproduce in hot springs where the temperature is close to the boiling point, with cyanobacteria with 80 degrees Celsius. The extent of temperature variation is less in water than in land. Thus, aquatic organisms have a lower range of temperature tolerance than land animals. Thus, temperature is a limiting factor. It affects organisms by controlling their morphological, physical, and behavioral characteristics either through heat gain or heat loss or both. When the heat gain is equal to the heat loss, the body temperature of the animal or plant remains the same. If the heat gain is greater than the heat loss, then the body temperature will rise, whereas the opposite happens when the body temperature falls. Poikilotherms and homeotherms. On the relation of body temperature to the temperature of the environment, organisms are two types, poikilotherms and homeotherms. Poikilotherm. Poikilotherms or cold-blooded organisms are those whose body temperature matches the temperature of the environment. As the temperature of the environment goes up or down, the rate of their body processes also goes up or down as the case may be. Most of the lower organisms, especially those living in water, are poikilotherms. Poikilotherms have no internal physiological means to keep body temperature constant. These animals adjust their body temperature with the temperature of the outside world. However, some animals like lizards use behavior rather than physical means to regulate their body temperature. Homeotherms. Homeotherms, known as warm-blooded organisms, and can keep their body temperature constant even when the environmental temperature changes. Homeotherms are primarily birds and mammals that have automatic physiological mechanisms to keep their body temperature constant despite changes in temperature outside or around them. To keep their body temperature high at low environmental temperature, homeotherms increase their metabolic rate or increase insulation by adding fat or inflating feathers or fur. On the other hand, in order to keep the body temperature low at high environmental temperatures, warm-blooded animals reduce their heat production and increase heat loss by evaporating water from sweat glands or panting, etc. Poikilotherms and homeotherms differ significantly in the relationships between the organism and its environment. For example, very low temperatures are tolerated in a variety of ways. Poikilotherms gradually become inactive as temperatures drop. Antarctic mites, however, are also active at sub-zero temperatures, and they may seek out microhabitats if available. Their further survival depends on tolerating the cold. There can be two types of species. Freeze-tolerating species avoid the formation of ice in their outer space, and freeze-susceptible species which do not survive on freezing. Homeotherms, on the other hand, can survive at low temperatures by storing enough food in their bodies to produce more heat and maintain a normal body temperature. If a homeotherms fails to store enough food, its body temperature will drop and it will die quickly from freezing well at body temperature. Here is the figure that defines relationships between metabolic rate and environmental temperature in poikilotherms and homeotherms. Poikilotherms are energy conservative with little power, while homeotherms are exceptional but powerful. In a powerful, rich food habitat, the homeotherms wins out, but the poikilotherms will not get along well. When food or water or oxygen is missing for the season, poikilotherms can survive for shutting themselves down. Whereas homeotherms, even if they greatly limit their activity, continue to use large amount of energy. Poikilotherms can be very small and limit their energy requirement, whereas homeotherms require a lot of energy to exist at just less than 5 grams in size. Hibernation. Hibernation or winter sleep is observed only in some mammals, 13-lined group squirrels, jumping rats, etc. are still less in birds, woodchucks, etc. Warm-blooded animals that hibernate in winter are called heterotherms. Hibernating homeotherms look for a place to live hibernaculum. As winter approaches and become poikilothermic, reducing the temperature in their hibernaculum, hence their body temperature also reduces. In this way, they conserve their energy which otherwise they would have spent on keeping their body temperature stable and moving. However, they differ from poikilotherms in that their heat production begins to increase as their hibernaculum approaches freezing point. If the temperature drops further, these animals stand up and go back to the homeothermic again. If they are lucky, they may find a deep hole and go back to their winter slumber again. Raccoons, possums, foxes, squirrels, bears do not hibernate, but spend the winter sleeping in burrows. However, their temperature doesn't decrease. Eurythermal and stenothermal organisms. Organisms like humans, lizards, amphibians, etc. can tolerate a wide range of temperature fluctuations and are eurythermal organisms. On the other hand, corals, snails, etc. cannot tolerate a wide range of temperature fluctuations as they do not have any adaptations to accommodate such temperature fluctuations. They are called stenothermal organisms. Ectotherm and endotherm. A classification based on the relationships between the temperature of the organisms and the environment divides organisms into ectotherms and endotherms. Ectotherms are organisms that largely depend on external sources of heat to raise their body temperature. Example, protista, plants, fishes, reptile, etc. Endotherms are organisms that are capable of producing heat internally to raise their body temperature. Example, birds and mammals. As the temperature moves away from the thermoneutral zone, endotherms expend more and more energy to maintain body temperature. Endotherms produce heat at a rate controlled by the brain. Heat loss is controlled by insulating material, fur and fat, etc., and by regulating blood flow near the surface of the skin. Functions of temperature. The effects of temperature on plants and animals are effects on metabolism. Since temperature controls the activity of enzymes. It controls the metabolic processes of organisms. It affects the rate of transpiration, photosynthesis, and seed germination in plants. It also regulates the respiratory rate and the other metabolic activities in both plants and animals. Effect on reproduction. Plants. Temperature affects flowering in plants. It also plays an important role in plant phenology, the study of periodic events of plants. Animals. The maturation of gonads and the liberation of gametes occur at a particular temperature, which varies from species to species. In some, reproduction is also affected due to temperature. The number of eggs laid by the blowfly increases with increasing temperature up to 32.5 degrees Celsius and decreases thereafter. The fertility of animals is also affected by temperature. Impact on growth and development. Plants. Extremely high and low temperatures adversely affect plant growth. Low temperatures give rise to diseases such as dryness, chills, and freezing injury. Extremely high temperatures cause plant growth to stop and die, a condition called heat injury. Animals. The growth and development of animals are affected by temperature. When the water temperature drops below 21 degrees Celsius, the corals do not grow. The blowfly, the incubation period of eggs, decreases with increasing temperature. Effect on crossing over. Temperature is seen to affect crossing over and somatic expression of genes in animals. If the larva and pupa is kept at low or high temperature, it affects the development of wings, eyes, etc. Effect on sex ratio. In rotifers and daphnids, temperature affects the sex ratio. Under normal temperatures, daphnids lay parthenogenetic eggs that develop into females, while with an increase in temperature, they lay fertilized eggs that develop into either a male or female. Effect on color. Some species of mammals, birds, and insects that live in warm, humid climates have a darker pigmentation than species that live in cold and dry climates. In Hyla, tree frog, and Phrynosoma horntoid, low temperatures induce pigmentation. Effect on morphology. The absolute size of an organism is affected by temperature. Mammals and birds attain larger body size in colder regions than in warmer regions, whereas poikilothms are smaller in colder regions. The snout, ears, legs, etc. of mammals are relatively smaller in colder regions than in warmer regions. Birds native to colder regions tend to have relatively narrower and more accumulating feathers, while in warmer regions they are wider.